Well, here's something you don't see every night. First-hand accounts of real-life exorcisms from Catholic priests trained by the Vatican. They say they've seen demons in action.
Isn't it strange that the most religious place on earth also has the highest rate of crime?
It was back in the day when you can get away with something like that, like
dark. How about that journalist who infiltrated the Vatican? You remember that?
Hop in for a jaw-dropping ride into the hidden places of Vatican City as we show you something dark happening and the Vatican doesn't want you to know. Vatican City. All right, welcome to Vatican City, the smallest country in the world. In case you're wondering how it is considered a country, the Vatican is actually an independent city-state governed by the Holy See. With a total area of about 49 hectares and a population of about 800, it is a small country with its own rules, and many secrets anyway. The city-state is surrounded by Rome, and as widely known, it is the headquarters of the Roman Catholic Church where the Pope lives. In fact, you can say that Vatican City is most popular for the Pope, who is probably the most famous religious leader in the whole world. So you know what that means. It's almost the same as saying the city is very popular for being religious. Though the Vatican is found in Rome, and it was under the Roman government for hundreds of years, it has been under the governance of the Pope since it became independent in 1929. And that would mean that the city-state is totally controlled by religious laws. This fact about Vatican City is also the reason it is known as the country with the lowest birth rate in the world. You would be shocked that the birth rate of Vatican City is actually 0. Yeah, no one ever gives birth in the Vatican City, and if you choose to take a walk through the city, all the people you are likely to see will be a bunch of celibate priests in religious regalia. Now, talking of celibate priests, I guess the fact that I said no one gives birth in the city should not be so shocking anymore. Vatican City is known for many good things. Well, maybe on the surface. Every year, millions of people troop to the Vatican to feed their eyes with the jaw-dropping structures that grace the land. I'm talking about eye-popping structures which were intricately designed by the best architects of the ancient world. These religious and cultural architecture have become very popular all over the world, and they have become of great economic importance to the Vatican City. An example of such is the St. Peter's Basilica, which is the first and most famous building in the city. The basilica features a magnificent exterior, which is a good match for the beauty within. However, this beauty may only be a facade, and you may find out there is more than meets the eye. The Sistine Chapel, the Vatican Apostolic Library, and the Vatican Museums are also some of the attractions that make the Vatican one of the most sought-after places for tourists. Most of the ancient Roman sculptures, like the famous Laocoon and his sons, sit in the Vatican museums. So, aside from the religious priests you would normally see around the city, there would be hundreds of people around who are in the Vatican for the beauty and the ancient artifacts. Now, you know how that greatly affects the economy of the city. The fees that are received from the tourists and the sales of souvenirs and postage stamps to tourists are the major financial pillars of the Vatican. While the ancient beauty of the Vatican attracts a lot of tourists and also supports the economy of the city, it would come as a great surprise that the beauty may only be a covering. According to several reports, the Vatican holds too many dark secrets that the world would stand in awe of if they ever find out. In fact, some of these secrets are so dark that they make the religious involvement of the Vatican questionable. This controversy around the Vatican has been traced to the root, and it is important to talk about how the Vatican was founded before we talk about the dark secrets that this history has birthed. Back to the roots. The area which is now known as the Vatican was a marshy area on the west bank of the Tiber in the city of Rome, and it was under the control of the Roman Republic. However, the place became a city during the reign of Emperor Constantine. At the time, the Roman government was fully pagan, and they had nothing to do with Jesus. But to the greatest shock of the rising Christian community who were already leaving the city because Christianity was illegal, The emperor legalized Christianity in 313 AD, and that was when the Vatican City changed to what we know it to be today. Trying to prove to the people that he really converted to Christianity, he started by building the first St. Peter's Basilica, which still lies at the foundation of the present-day basilica. According to history, Constantine built the structure over the tomb of St. Peter, and he did that to bring the words of Jesus to pass. As he probably thought, when Jesus said that Peter was the rock upon which he would build his church, he may not have meant it literally. However, Constantine chose to build a huge basilica over the tomb of St. Peter, and he got the Christians believing that he meant his conversion to Christianity. Well, till today, many people still believe that Constantine was really for Jesus, but in the background, a lot of dark things may have happened then, and the foundation of the Vatican and the Roman Catholicism may be wobbly. And right now there have been a lot of discoveries in the Vatican which makes the religion practiced in the Vatican questionable. I mean, the fact that the emperor legalized Christianity does not mean that he actually believes in Jesus. In fact, he only did that because a large population of Christians were leaving.
Well, when you look at the history of the Vatican, when you look at the history, Constantine decided to convert to Christianity because the people were leaving. The people were like, F that. So this is mainstream history. Constantine goes, okay, I'm no longer pagan / Luciferian. I'm no longer ancient Babylonian shit. We like Christ too. We're gonna do Christ. We're gonna do. We got our own. This is mainstream. We're gonna start the Roman Catholic Church. We're gonna have a pope. He talks to Jesus like every day. We're gonna have cardinals.
So, could it be that Constantine built a dark religion and painted it to look like he was for Jesus? Well, so it seems. A lot of secrets have been discovered in the Vatican, and it seems like the Pope may know more than you would think he does.
So, when you look at the Vatican, they have a lot of Luciferian shit. Look at the resurrection. Look at the sculpture of the resurrection.
Dark structures. There have been rumors flying around that there could be some Luciferian things going on at the Vatican. Well, looking at how it looks like one of the most religious places and everything the priests say and do seem to point to Christianity, this suggestion would seem like a false claim. However, when you look at the city beyond the surface, you would agree that there could be something out of the ordinary going on there. I mean, some things in the city just stare at you right in the eye, and it is so glaring that they are far from Christianity. And yes, I'm talking about some weird structures that obviously carry dark meanings. In the Paul VI audience hall where the Pope holds his weekly meetings, a giant structure which stands right behind the Pope's seat has got the world talking and wondering if there is any dark thing going on in the Vatican. The 66 feet by 10 feet sculpture, which is called the Statue of the Resurrection, was designed by Pericles Fazzini, and it was supposed to depict the resurrection of Jesus. But looking at it, I do not think there is anything that looks like resurrections in the statue. In fact, there may be something hidden about it, something that definitely works against its supposed meaning. They said the sculpture shows Jesus rising out of a nuclear crater in Bethlehem, but that just does not make any sense. I mean, what does the resurrection of Jesus have to do with a nuclear crater? And even if that made sense to the designer, how did the popes think it aligned with the story of Jesus' resurrection? They claimed it means he was rising out of hell, but there it goes. Another claim that makes no sense. Now, I guess this should speak volumes about how far the Vatican and the religious leaders may be from the Christianity which they claim to practice.
This is their main church. That's supposed to be Jesus right there. This is supposed, it looks like a Slayer album cover.
Well,
that looks like Hell Awaits.
It's an artist rendering.
That looks like Hell Awaits. Slayer right there. So they're saying,
pull up the this
is supposed to represent the resurrection of Jesus. How come you couldn't show the part? How come you didn't show the part where he's like in front of a meadow and he resurrected and there's children running in the meadow?
This is an artist. It's not like the Mona Lisa represents all women.
Yeah.
But if the so-called Statue of Resurrection doesn't seem like it's dark enough for you, then the serpent structure inside St. Peter's Basilica should make this suggestion make sense. While the ancient structure has been attractive to tourists and has been famous around the world, it holds some controversial features. These features are not only controversial, but they also give credibility to the rumors that the Vatican may have some associations with the Antichrist. One of those mind-boggling features is the snake-like design which is seen over the ceiling of St. Peter's Basilica. Looking at it, you can be sure that the design was not a mistake or something that accidentally looked like a serpent. In fact, it is obvious that it was so intricately designed to hold a dark meaning. The head, the teeth, the striking eyes, and the fangs of the serpent design are so visible that it would be shocking if the Pope and other religious leaders do not know there is something dark about this feature. I mean, in Christianity, everyone seems to know what the serpent stands for, so if the religious leaders of the Vatican and those who built the basilica deemed it fit to include an image of a serpent, then you should know what that means. They are definitely not for Jesus. In fact, they may be actively working against Christianity and the faith.
That's in the Vatican. That's the serpent
Yeah,
cathedral.
that's dope.
Come on, man.
Yeah,
That's a
that's
serpent.
Should
look
do
at
a
the
show
fangs.
there, Joe.
Look at the fangs and look at the eyes.
That
Look
is
at
a
that tongue.
serpent.
Come on.
Look at the tongue that comes
The
out
Vatican
of the fangs.
been
That's
pretending
amazing.
they're into Christ. They're not into Christ. They want to destroy Christ.
The telescope. It's funny how the Vatican has done several things in the past, and it seems like they were trying their best to make the whole world know where they stand. But the world doesn't even get the memo. In 2004, the Vatican launched a telescope in Arizona, and it was a large binocular telescope that got the world talking. Well, the awesomeness of the telescope is not what got them buzzing anyway. It was the name the religious leaders of the Vatican chose for their telescope. Yeah, I know it would make a lot of sense if they named it St. Peter, or even the name of one of their past popes. However, out of all the names they could have chosen, they decided to choose Lucifer as a befitting name for their telescope. Now that's really the height of it, right? I mean, how bold could they have been to tell the whole world that they were calling their telescope Lucifer? It just shows how the Vatican may not be practicing the religion we think they are.
Kill that
Amazing
Christ.
that the Vatican would have a telescope and they name it Lucifer.
Though after several back and forths, the religious leaders of the Vatican probably thought that they could do some damage control, so they claimed that the name was only an acronym. All right, they thought that made sense, but of course they only made matters worse. How does it make sense that a religious body that claims to be crazy about God and Jesus chose such an acronym and they all agreed on it? It's all a scam, if you ask me. And when you see the name, which they claimed is the full meaning of their said acronym, you would need no further evidence to know that they just take the world for a fool, nothing more. Well, about 8 years after they tried to swindle the whole world and no one fell for their scam, they decided to change the name of the telescope to a shorter form, which is Luci. But be it Lucy or Lucifer, the telescope saga just blew their cover, and the whole world began to keep an eye on the Vatican, believing that there could be more secrets hidden within the walls of the city, and they may have fooled us with religion under the cover of Christianity for hundreds of years. The wave of hypocrisy. Aside from their seeming involvement in the worship of Lucifer, the Vatican could be full of criminals who are only hiding under the umbrella of religion and disguising as saints. According to reports, none of the priests in the Vatican seem to practice what they preach. Most importantly, the doctrine of celibacy among priests may not be totally practiced in the Vatican. In fact, according to Joe Rogan, some of the so-called celibate priests could be doing the hanky-panky with the female worshippers behind the scenes.
I mean, if you have a community where the priest is literally connected to God and he's a biological male and he's horny and these women worship them and came
also,
to them for...
It's the original show business.
The act of fornication or adultery seems to be a big issue among these biological men who are supposed to stay away from women because they have to serve. However, it may be better than the shocking discovery which was made by a journalist who had the exclusive access to interview the priests at the Vatican City. This French journalist discovered that the Vatican priests are mostly gays or pedophiles, and the system of the Vatican has been designed to protect them. To put that better, one priest or the other is into one vice or sin they boldly stand against. So what they do is protect each other as they keep doing their things in the background.
There's a French journalist who is gay himself who went in to basically interview the priest in the Vatican.
Oh, okay.
He said, I'm doing an account of the Vatican. Well, you know, he spent a while there,
Years, right?
Yeah, years. And he came out and basically said in this book, he said, there are a lot of gay priests there and there are a lot of pedophiles, and both are protecting each other because they don't want each other to get exposed.
Yeah,
So
they
it's
don't
like,
want out.
Now, the issue about this dark secret would not be against the LGBT community, but against the Vatican, the mother of Roman Catholicism, a group of believers who strongly stand against same-sex marriages and consider it as total sacrilege and sin against the Almighty. I mean, is it not strange that such would be found among them? Among the larger percentage even. However, what's even more shocking is the fact that before the LGBT community became a thing, the Vatican has always been home to a large number of priests. Since priests are supposed to be celibate, most young boys in the ancient times saw the Roman Catholic priesthood as an escape route from the life they did not want to live. I mean, since they did not want girls and would rather not get married to one to cover their shame at the time, they would rather become priests and totally avoid the drama that may be involved in their normal lives. So, from ancient times, the Vatican has been their haven, but what's strange is how they boldly preach against it. A wave of hypocrisy among so-called religious people, if you ask me. Now, their hypocrisy gets even more disgusting because they do not only do exactly what they preach against, but they also make money from it. This is what I mean. The Vatican City, from the fortune they make from the faithfuls and tourists, decided in their generosity, or call it greed, to pump millions of euros into a movie by Rocket Man. And before you think that it is not a big deal, I guess you should know that the movie was about Elton John finding happiness in his marriage to his husband, David. Now, for a religious community that frowns at such relationships, don't you think that's a bizarre thing to do? Well, they probably will never want you to know that they invested a huge sum into the production of the movie and some tens of millions into such projects in Hollywood. Crazy, right? However, that's not even the weirdest discovery about the hypocrisy of the Vatican. The most shocking discovery would be the ancient paintings that were found in an apartment at the Vatican. In 1516, an artist was giving a large sum of money to decorate the priest's apartment, but the decoration is one that would make your jaw drop. Though the religious leaders of the Vatican never give tourists access to this room, they still could not keep the saddening secret that lies behind the doors. I'm talking about raunchy pagan imagery found in the apartment. To make matters worse, the ancient pope who occupied the apartment at the time may have had a habit of doing some unthinkable things in his bathroom. Yeah, you know what I mean. The pope may wear white religious regalia all over the streets of the city, but his bathroom was an escape from his priest life. Behind the bathroom doors, he had the portraits of a nude Venus, the Cupid, as well as naked nymphs. Now I guess you would wonder how the Vatican actually gets to choose their religious leaders. As expected, the leaders of the Vatican locked this room away to keep the secrets and keep the notion that they are all holy people. In fact, there are other things that they have kept hidden, and this include religious documents in ancient archives. Suikon. The ancient archives. No doubt you may never find a place on Earth that holds more secrets than the Vatican secret archives. The fact that they never allow anyone to access these secret archives has birthed several rumors and conspiracy theories concerning what may be hidden in the archives. However, as we know the religious leaders of the Vatican to be experts at damage control, they came up with another excuse that the archives are their underground fortress. But if they are actually underground fortresses as they claim, why do they never allow anyone to enter these places? Well, expected their trusted scholars, who are probably close to their graves already? These old men are the only ones who know whatever secrets the Vatican holds in those archives, and trust them not to be able to spill the beans because most of them can't even remember a thing anymore. Well, whether they spill it or not, there is no doubt the archives, which they called an underground fortress, could be full of some things that are related to their Luciferian involvements. The devil lives at the Vatican. If there is anything that the religious leaders of the Vatican seem to believe in, it is that fact that the devil lives in the Vatican. And one thing that gives credibility to this is the fact that they seem to have a lot of dark spiritual stuff going on. First, the Vatican and the Roman Catholic believe in exorcism, which is totally unacceptable in Christianity and modern medicine. In fact, the Vatican has a school of exorcism where they teach hundreds of people the act. In 2010, the Vatican had a chief exorcist named Reverend Gabriel Amorth, an 85-year-old religious leader who claimed to have treated over 70,000 cases of demonic possession, and he operated as their official exorcist for 25 years. So while the main Christian belief stood firmly against the act of exorcism, the Vatican made quite a fortune from it. The Vatican priests even defended the act by admitting that the devil really lives in the city, and a lot of people in the city were being oppressed by the evil spirit of the devil. Well, many people in the city seemed to agree, because people were indeed reporting that they could literally see the devil talking to them or oppressing them. While this may be proof of the dark things that have eaten deep into the Vatican City, it may also be a kind of manipulation. I mean, the people may just be suffering from a kind of mental illness or psychosis, and they think it's the devil, because they have been told that he lives in the city. But, come to think of it, why would the devil be living in a city that claims to be religious? Isn't it supposed to be the city of God, or probably the saints? I guess this is another proof that the real truth about the Vatican may be hidden. Secondly, history has it that one ancient pope actually passed judgment on a dead man. Of course, I know that makes no sense, but it actually happened in the year 897. The Pope, who had just assumed the leadership position, actually made sure that his dead predecessor was exhumed from his grave. And in what sounded like a zombie story, he set the dead Pope on a seat in the court and hurled words at him in the presence of hundreds of court members. He kept saying things to the body of the late Pope, like he was talking to someone who could hear him. Now, as if that was not enough, he passed a judgment that some of the late Pope's members be cut and his body thrown into the river. That is the most mind-boggling thing you would ever hear, trust me. And for that to have happened in a place where we were made to see as religious, then the devil must really dwell in the land, as they said. I mean, just when you think that the Vatican could never get darker, strange things unfold, and you question whatever you've believed about their religion. Anyway, we may not be able to say for a fact that they are really into Luciferian worship, but one thing is sure. The Vatican is not what you think it is, and more may be happening behind the scenes than you can ever imagine. Okay, guys, it is your turn to let us know what you think about the Vatican City. Do you think that it is actually a religious place as they claim, or could these dark things mean that they are hiding something from the world? Let us know your thoughts about this video in the comments section. If you have any questions about the topic, you can also ask us in the comments.